Imagine a sitcom without a laugh track, or a comedy without a shred of originality or humor, or a film that's both inoffensive yet unremarkably unremarkable that some viewers may struggle to remember anything about the previous scene, even if that scene just ended, while also simultaneously wondering if they're going to retain anything from the scene they're currently watching. And that summarizes my feelings on Adult Best Friends, a Max original written, directed by, and starring Delaney Buffett. That's right, the daughter of Jimmy Buffett. This is also written by and stars Katie Corwin. They play Delaney and Katie. Boy, they must have been worried that they wouldn't remember any other names. Boy, good job on originality there. Okay, that's fine. People can play themselves and they can have some fun. None of which will be found here. Look, this movie honestly is inoffensive. It's just a bland bowl of oatmeal that's been left out of the microwave for a while. There's no sugar, no spice, no anything nice. It's just there. I guess if you have to consume it, you can consume it. They play two best friends that meet when they're in 7th grade at a party. And Katie ends up being kind of the more responsible one when they grow up. Delaney is more of the partier, the drug, user, that kind of stuff, whatever. She's living with a girl named Mel, played by Hannah Campbell. And Katie has a boyfriend, John, played by Mason Gooding, who certainly had quite the interesting few years. He was recently in Hard Eyes. That is on Netflix if you want to check that out. Does comedy better than this? I'm trying to be nice, but I'm sorry when a film provides me with absolutely nothing and it is just this bland and boring and a basic bitch of a concept with a few things that actually could have hit if I give a fuck about any of these characters, and I don't. The segments, which basically it's just a situational comedy. It is just basically a few episodes of a sitcom put together. It has a couple messages about maybe learning to grow up and stuff like that, and still having your best friend, but also recognizing that you need to grow as a person, and there can be blame on both sides in a situation like this. But Jesus, tap dancing, Christ is bored. Zachary Quinto is in this as Katie's brother. And I'm going to be honest here, there really isn't a whole lot to spoil. If you care, go and watch it on Max. Again, I've seen worse, but I saw fairly positive grades, and I was like, all right, this might be kind of funny. I knew nothing about it. I just saw it dropped on Max recently. And yeah, after John's proposal, they basically, Katie concocts this idea. The main crux of this is getting Delaney to go back to their home turf, so to speak, get an Airbnb, and, say, hey, he popped a question to me, we're going to do this, but then Delaney keeps wanting to party and keeps wanting to do other stuff. It's also the side gag of this guy, Dougie, who we find out why he's renting out this house and everything, but it's like none of that comedy really hits, and it's not funny. None of this is funny. None of it. It is very bad comedy. Very, very, very bad. I know bad fucking comedy, guys. I make bad jokes all the time on these videos. But this is just on a silly YouTube channel. This is something that had a little bit of funding behind it. Granted, it was shot like a sitcom and was performed like a sitcom without a laugh track, which is exactly what I took from it. And sure, there are some attempts at emotional depth a little bit later on, but there's no reason to get invested in these characters. It just ends up being, again, a pile of bland oatmeal with nothing to put on it. And actually, it's like cream of wheat if cream of wheat was left out in the rain. There's really not a lot that I can say to add to this. It just ends up being just a series of stretched out gags, and it's boring. It is so boring. Unremarkably unfucking remarkable. That's it. That's all I gotta say. Spoilers. Basically, Katie and John kind of come to an impasse at one point that leads to a reunion of sorts where basically John has to show Katie, hey, there are some couples that fight, but they stay together because not everybody's perfect. Delaney has to realize that she has fucked up as well because she kind of wants to still be the party girl in a party world, wrapped in plastic. It's fantastic. The Dougie character ends up revealing, by the way, that he didn't want any alcohol and stuff in the house and drugs because he didn't want to relapse. He was clean and sober for 2 years, and good for that character, and we should respect people if they have set boundaries like that. But this is so basic is what I wrote. I wrote down, this is basic, this isn't funny several goddamn times. So, Mel is kind of Delaney's new best friend and almost keeping her down, so to speak, because Delaney realizes, part of me does want to grow up, and Mel is just really depressing. I have to say Hannah Campbell at least plays her role well, I will say that. But yeah, there's not much to this. They end up running into an old friend that has a baby and also has a husband where the doggo seems to be happy around Delaney because they're kind of miserable as far as parents and stuff like that. And I guess she ends up running into they both run into some people that are celebrating one of their dude bros' engagements. Charlie, I believe is his name. Delaney kind of goes for the one guy that's not interested in her pursuing the thing she can't have. This guy Tommy, who's a crypto bro. So that right there should tip you off not to go for them. Crypto bros need to be humiliated and shunned because there's something wrong with you guys. So then they do coke in the living room, and then that's when Dougie reveals that he doesn't want to relapse. Some strippers show up. At least I think they were supposed to be strippers. None of this is funny. I mean, there is a thing about Charlie and Katie had a bit of a connection, but Charlie actually was trying to be a genuinely nice guy, and Katie was like, well, no, I can't cheat on my husband. Well, no, or my fiance, that wasn't what I was asking you to do. You could honestly zone out of at least half of this movie and not miss shit. Delaney basically gets upset at Katie because, well, you're getting engaged and kind of just leaving me behind, this kind of stuff. That's a bit of it. And Katie's like, why don't you just try growing up? To be fair, Katie probably should have just said instead of this whole thing, sitting down, hey, we're going to get married. Please be in my wedding. And if Delaney was any kind of friend, she would have done that. But then we wouldn't have had a movie, which honestly would have been better. We could have had a shorter movie here. So yeah, John, who does physical therapy with older people, has to show this old couple that's been together. They got divorced, but they got back together, that kind of stuff. There's a side thing with Zachary Quinto's brother character, trauma dumping on a woman named Daria, who is a therapist and has to hear about this guy that gets off on lizards. You. If you were like that, you were a sick freak, I just want to say. And various stuff about patience. And then basically with a few minutes left, Katie and Delaney have to basically to reform their, well, not even reform their friendship, just they talk and they basically realize we're not going to grow apart, but we have to do our own things. And then the wedding, Zachary Quinto's character does something, and then Delaney's going to, give a speech there, or either be the maid of honor or be the goddamn pastor, because they couldn't get anybody else or whatever. It doesn't really matter. I mean, does it really matter at this point? I mean, I'm sorry, but just these people are just doing things. It's just these situations that don't end up amounting to anything. Gags are stretched out 2 or 3 times as long as they need to be, despite some of the scenes seemingly being edited in a fucking mix master. Adult Best Friends is not very good. I'm not saying that Delaney Buffett should not get a chance to make another movie. I'm not saying Katie Corwin shouldn't get a chance to write another movie. I'm not saying that. But goddamn, this is lazy. That's the best way I can describe it. Lazy. Gets an F, sorry. Check out my Letterboxd if you want to see more. Agree, disagree, what I said, like, share, subscribe, Twitter, Letterboxd, Blue Sky handles in the description. I'm John Renthlan. I'll see you soon.